They were chained, beaten, yet their spirits remained unbroken. On a quiet, unassuming shore in Georgia, a group of Africans made a choice so powerful, so defiant, that America tried to bury it forever. This is the untold story of Igbo Landing, the day enslaved Africans chose death over bondage, and in doing so became legends. Imagine this. It's the year 1803. A ship, ominously named the Wanderer, has just anchored off the coast of St. Simon's Island, Georgia. Its cargo, about 75 men and women from the Igbo people of what is now southeastern Nigeria. They had already survived the unimaginable horrors of capture, the brutal middle passage across the Atlantic, and the dehumanizing spectacle of a slave auction in Savannah. They were sold to two planters, Thomas Spaulding and John Coer, who intended to force them into labor on their coastal plantations. They were packed onto a smaller vessel, a coastal schooner, to be transported the final leg of their journey to a life of slavery. But as they sailed through the winding, marshy waterways, something profound stirred within them. It was a collective decision, a silent agreement that freedom was worth more than life itself. Led by a man said to be a chief or a high priest, a leader who held their trust, the Igbos rose up. In a coordinated act of rebellion, they overpowered their captors. The details are sparse, lost to time and suppression, but we know they managed to seize control of the vessel, forcing it aground at the edge of Dunbar Creek. What happened next is what transformed this act of resistance into an immortal legend. Standing on the muddy banks of that creek, under the humid Georgia sky, they didn't stutter, they didn't run. Instead, they began to sing. It was a haunting, powerful chant in their native Igbo tongue, a song of home, a song calling to their ancestors, a song of spiritual liberation. Then, with their leader at the front, they turned towards the water, and one by one, they walked into the creek, their song echoing across the marsh as they marched deeper and deeper, until the water claimed them all. The white overseers who witnessed this were horrified, not by the loss of life, but by the loss of property. They reported that the Igbos had committed mass suicide, but that's not how the story was remembered by those who understood its true meaning. Local legend, passed down through generations of the Gullah people, descendants of enslaved West Africans, who preserved their cultural heritage, tells a different story. They say the Igbos didn't drown. They say they flew, their spirits transformed, taking flight, and returning across the ocean to Africa, back to the land of their ancestors. From that day forward, Igbo Landing became hallowed ground. It became a place whispered about in stories, a site imbued with immense spiritual power and a profound sense of sorrow and strength. For centuries, this story was deliberately suppressed, erased from official American history books. It was a narrative too powerful, too defiant for a nation built on slavery to acknowledge. The official record simply noted a financial loss. But the story refused to die. It lived on in the oral traditions of the local Gullah communities. Elders would warn their children away from the creek, not just because it was dangerous, but because the land around Dunbar Creek was haunted. They said that on quiet nights, you could still hear the clanking of chains and the faint, sorrowful echoes of the Igbo's song. The water, they said, refused to forget. But to label this event merely as a ghost story or a tragedy is to miss its true significance. Igbo Landing was not just a mass suicide. It was a revolutionary act. It was a calculated, collective act of political and spiritual resistance. It was a powerful declaration that the human spirit cannot be owned, cannot be broken, and cannot be enslaved. In that final, defiant act, they seized control of their own destiny. They chose a self-determined death over a life in bondage, sending an undeniable message that reverberates through time. This story is a crucial piece of the American puzzle, a testament to the incredible resilience and resistance of enslaved Africans. It challenges the sanitized version of history we are often taught and forces us to confront the brutal realities of slavery and the extraordinary courage of those who fought against it. In recent years, the story of Igbo Landing has begun to resurface, thanks to the tireless efforts of historians, artists, and descendants of the Gullah people. It has inspired novels like Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, and even found its way into popular culture, referenced in movies like Black Panther. The site itself, once unmarked and forgotten, is now being recognized as a sacred place of historical importance. A historical marker now stands near the site, a small but significant acknowledgement of the truth. This story teaches us that history is not just a collection of dates and facts written by the victors. It is a living, breathing thing carried in songs, in whispers, in the memory of a people. It reminds us that there are countless stories of resistance, courage, and sacrifice that have been deliberately hidden from us. It is our responsibility to seek them out, to listen to them, and to share them. The Igbos of 1803 left behind no written records, no monuments of stone. Their legacy is etched into the water, the land, and the very air of that place. It's a legacy of unbreakable will and the unquenchable thirst for freedom. So, the next time you stand by the ocean or hear the gentle lapping of water on a shore, take a moment to remember. Remember the brave Igbos of Dunbar Creek. They walked into that water not as victims, not as slaves, but as warriors who chose their own freedom on their own terms. Their story is a powerful reminder that some things are more precious than life, and that the fight for dignity is never in vain. If you believe that stories like this must be told, that our history must be whole and true, please support our channel. Like this video, subscribe for more stories that have been left in the shadows, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because our history only truly lives when we remember it and refuse to let it be forgotten. Thank you for watching.